Recently, I made an analysis video talking about how bad Soldier of Fortune Payback is really. While I was making that video, I looked up the history of the developers and saw a game that caught my eye. This game is Jurassic the Hunted. You guys seem to like watching me torture myself by playing bad games, so here we go again. How bad is Jurassic the Hunted really? Hey everyone, Jarek the Gaming Dragon here. Let's dig into this game. Despite being published by Activision, this game only saw a release in North America on November 3rd, 2009, a mere few months away from 2010. I'm playing the 360 version, but if you want to get the game nowadays, it's not actually as cheap as it should be. If you look on Amazon, you can find the PS3 version for $20, the Xbox 360 version for $40, and the Wii version for $70. The cheapest way to get this is to find it in some pawn shop where really it shouldn't be worth any more than $5. That said, you can get it at GameStop for $15, so if you want to do that, go ahead. It's crazy that the cheapest option you have is GameStop, what? And believe it or not, there was actually another version of this game. This game, which was released almost in 2010, saw a PlayStation 2 release. That's insane! Obviously, the PlayStation 2 version looks a lot worse than the 360 and PS3 versions, and the Wii version uses the Wii mode to aim. One of the first things I noticed in this game is that this game really doesn't hold a stable frame rate at all. At many times you'll be consistently in the 20s. Doing some research, it seems that this is even more of a problem on the PlayStation 3 version, but you're really not getting much luck out of any of the versions. They all run pretty poorly. This includes both the PlayStation 2 and Wii version. As far as the Wii version goes, apparently aiming on it is very difficult. And I don't mean it's difficult to adjust to the Wiimote, I mean apparently it's very difficult to aim with it at all. You figure the Wii version would be a cool novelty dinosaur game, but apparently it's not very good. I can't personally speak on it, I have the 360 version, so let's talk about that. As mentioned, it doesn't run very smoothly. Sometimes it runs at a solid 30 FPS, but for the most part, you'll usually have around the 20s. And the resolution seems to be around 720p. Not any higher than that, that's for sure. At first glance, you might assume this is a ripoff of Turok 2008, but this actually doesn't feel like Turok 2008 at all, and has no similarities with it other than there's dinosaurs. The plot itself is very B-movie-esque. It's silly, and really, I'm not going to complain about this too much. This game has a three-person party. Your character is a Navy SEAL by the name of Craig Dillon. There's another Navy SEAL in the party, and you only ever refer to him as Rock. The third person is a scientist, Sabrina. You're flying through the Bermuda Triangle trying to find Sabrina's father, who was lost a long time ago. Of course, some crazy anomaly shit starts happening, you jump out of the plane, and all of you get warped to a different part of an island. This island is of course infested by dinosaurs, and there seems to be things across all time periods on the island. Those anomalies are actually vortexes, and they seem to scatter people throughout time onto this island. The vortex your buddy, Rock, got pulled into put him back onto the island 30 years prior, so now he's older. Which was hilarious when this got revealed to you because he didn't sound any different.
Mr. Dillon, Rock is in no condition to endanger himself.
What are you talking about? Rock's 6'3", a pure Navy SEAL.
Not anymore, he's not.
Who?
It's me, Dylan. It's Rock. It's been a long time.
I'm just gonna age 30 years and keep the same voice. Sabrina got lucky and didn't seem to age in any way whatsoever, but you do find her father, who was stuck on this island and is now very old. It's revealed that an asteroid wasn't what killed the dinosaurs, it was these vortexes, and apparently it's going to happen again. So you need to find a way to get off this island and warn people. From this point on in the game, the whole point of every single mission is just to find something that will help you get off the island. Now, these missions are not fetch quests, they're not open in any way whatsoever, it's just a linear path, and usually whatever you have to pick up ends up just being a nav point. So don't worry about that, that's just an excuse to shoot more dinosaurs. That's really all there is to the plot. The one thing I have to add is that the voice acting can be hilarious, but they don't really have much to work with. Like I said, this is almost a B-movie-esque type video game, and to make things even worse, the facial expressions are awful.
Bumpy ride, huh?
Now I know this is a 360 game, and the 360 and the PS3 were kind of limited, but put that into context as to when this game came out. Almost 2010! Other 360 games had done way better than this. In fact, this whole game kind of gives me a vibe of like a 360 launch game. But it wasn't a launch title, it came out almost 4 years after the 360 launch. Now I can't seem to find how much this game came out on launch, but if it was anything more than $10, it is not worth it, and $10 is being generous. It has bad frame rate, bad resolution, the textures are pretty muddy, the character models are not that great, and the facial expressions are awful. This looks like a dated game on launch. Every time I say this, someone will come in and say, why are you critiquing an old game by today's standards? I'm not. Again, 2010. This is not some old vintage game. And real quickly, I have to interject here with something about Soldier of Fortune Payback. I got a lot of those comments saying, well yeah, it was an old game. Of course the PC version isn't going to run on modern PCs. But keep in mind, that game came out in 2007. 2007 also saw the launch of Crysis 1, Call of Duty 4, Bioshock. It was not vintage PC time, and standards had already come around. So no, it's not me nitpicking and having OCD because I want a standard resolution to be 1080 or allowing me to change my FOV. That had been standard in PCs long before then. Alright, sorry, that's one of the comments I get a lot and it drives me insane. Mini rant over. So I talked about the plot and I talked about the graphics and they're both underwhelming, but how's the gameplay? By far my biggest complaint with this game are the controls. At first they seem perfectly fine. The aiming isn't really that bad, although it does do that thing that I hate where vertical sensitivity is a lot slower than horizontal, but you can get used to that. Aim assist is incredibly strong in this game, so I kind of fought the aim assist at first until I realized I needed to just actually stop aiming and let the game do the aiming for me, because console aiming, I guess. So again, once you get used to that, it's not really that big of a deal, but what I'm referring to are a bunch of really odd choices. For example, aim is hold, and that's fine, left trigger, hold down, aim, we're all used to that. But using the adrenaline, the slow motion mechanic, is a left bumper. Also sounds fine until you realize that's also hold and isn't toggle for whatever reason. This means if you want to use your slow motion and aim, you need to hold down the left bumper and the left trigger. If you don't have two fingers at the top of your controller, like most people don't hold their controller this way, then that's a little bit awkward to do. Another baffling choice is that clicking down the left analog stick is sprint, and that sounds fine, that's just how it is in Call of Duty, until you realize that it's not toggle either. You have to hold the left analog stick down to sprint. Why? But whatever. You could get used to those things, they're just odd choices. The one that really got me was swapping weapons. You press Y to swap weapons, and again this sounds fine at first glance until you realize you can carry 4 weapons at a time and there's no weapon dial. This means that if you want to swap 3 weapons down in your list, you have to press Y, wait for the animation to end to pick up the next gun, press Y, wait for that animation to end to pick up the next gun, press Y, and then you have the gun you want. You can't mash Y 3 times to skip 3 weapons down either, you have to wait through these animations. And pressing Y doesn't get buffered, so you have to press Y again once the animation ends or nothing happens. If a dinosaur is in your face and you want your shotgun, that's 3 weapons down, you have to wait this whole time as it's trying to kill you. This obviously is not ideal. There's a reason this annoys me more than it should, because it could have been fixed with some common sense. The use key in this game, the key you use to pick up guns and open up doors, is down on the D-pad. Nothing else is used on the D-pad. You have 4 weapons, you're not using the D-pad, and why is swap weapons? What the fuck? I am very sure someone in development looked at this and said, we could map each weapon to each direction on the D-pad, and someone else went, too much work, ship it. I'm just dumbfounded as to why you wouldn't implement such an easy fix. And before you say you can't rebind your controls, you only have 2 layouts. One of them is basically a Call of Duty layout, the other one is a Halo layout. I would prefer the Halo one because at least aiming is toggle on the right analog stick, but then it also does weird things like putting crouch to X, so I just didn't want to use that either. It's one of those things where you can play the game and it's not necessarily game ending, but just, what were they thinking? Surprisingly, the gameplay actually really isn't that bad. This is one of those games that I can easily see being someone's guilty pleasure. You can immediately tell that this was made by the same developer that made Soldier of Fortune Payback because a lot of the models and animations are reused. That's a little bit lame and I would have liked to see some new models and some different guns, but at the same time the guns in Soldier of Fortune Payback were never really that game's problem, so I'm also kind of okay with this. The guns sound loud, the animations are acceptable, the texture working on the guns are okay, and unlike Soldier of Fortune Payback, you actually use the iron sights properly. In general, the shooting feels perfectly fine, and there is a good mix of what guns you get in the game. Since things are scattered across the island from different time periods, you get more than just your modern military guns. Of course you have things like that pump action shotgun and the saw, but then you also get a black powder rifle or even some futuristic weapons. As for the dinosaurs themselves, there's not a huge variety of them, but there is enough to keep your interest. Most of the dinosaurs are just going to be different variations of raptors, which is a common complaint, but I didn't really mind this too much. You have a good mix of different sizes of raptors, ranging from very small ones that'll hunt you in big packs, to just your occasional raptors, and the bigger they get, the more health they have and the more damage they'll do. There's some other more unique ones like the pterodactyls, or the other ones that will spit acid at you. Occasionally this game will have a boss battle, but this is very rare and there probably should have been more of these. On top of that, the boss battles could have been a lot better. The T-Rex boss battle especially really was a big disappointment. In this T-Rex boss battle, you were just on a mounted gun. You can't move anywhere, you're just on a mounted gun. The T-Rex runs straight at you and you shoot it with this mounted gun until it stumbles and then starts running away. As it's running away, pterodactyls will dive bomb you from above. This is your chance to let the machine gun cool down a bit before the T-Rex turns around and charges you again. If he gets too close, then he just bites at you until you die. Eventually you shoot him enough and he dies. Woohoo, boss battle is over. Nope, you do the whole thing all over again, but this time with a red T-Rex. They literally recycled the boss one right after another. You don't even go anywhere. You might as well have just given it double the health, that's all it really is. This game somehow managed to make a boss battle with a T-Rex boring. I'm almost impressed by this. But to the game's credit, unlike Soldier of Fortune Payback, it never gets frustrating, it just, at its worst, gets boring. Payback on its later levels definitely got frustrating and its boss battles were awful, so you know what, maybe it's good that we don't have more boss battles. The only other boss battle that comes to mind is a Spinosaurus that serves as the biggest main boss of the game, and you'll have to fight him numerous times throughout the game. Each boss battle isn't recycled at least, so, you know, that's good. These are still a little underwhelming though and could have been a lot better. The only other thing to talk about with the gameplay is a mechanic called Adrenaline, and this effectively works the same as the slow motion in Fear. It recharges, you can use it, it'll slow time down. The only gimmick it has is that you can see vital organs in dinosaurs while time is slow, so you know exactly where to shoot them. I still don't know if you do more damage in this mode, or if it just lets you see where you're supposed to shoot easier. I don't know, the game never really explained that, but it does help, especially since your movement isn't too fast, so slowing time down and then strafing around dinosaurs is pretty useful. Again, the game isn't really too difficult, and the only times I died were due to silly things like dinosaurs jumping at me right as I'm about to fire an RPG, so I kill myself. The game is a little on the easier side than the more difficult side, but it's not so easy that you can just turn your brain off and never look or focus on the game at all. It's a good thing this game's on the easier side because we've seen what happens when it comes to the game being on the harder side with Soldier of Fortune Payback's later levels. We really need to make up a term for a game being hard, but not hard for the right reasons, more like complete bullshit. Say instances of the game killing you immediately out of a cutscene before you can act, stuff like that. Because again, thankfully this game never did that, but Soldier of Fortune Payback did plenty of that. So I don't know, as a whole this game is nowhere near as bad as Soldier of Fortune Payback was. The dinosaurs look fine and act fine for the most part, the guns feel okay. In general, I would say it's a big improvement over Soldier of Fortune Payback, with the exception of one really big glaring flaw. I beat this game in 2 hours. 2 hours! I'm not kidding you, I streamed the game, and a little over 2 hours later, the game was done. I thought the game was going to be much longer than that. I thought maybe it would take a few streams, but no. 2 hours, game is completely done. When you beat the game, you do unlock a hard difficulty, which unlocks a new gun, and the only difference I could tell between hard difficulty and normal is that the enemies seem to kill you a little faster. But you get the new gun, the plasma gun, and this thing is so strong that it kind of makes the game too easy. So I don't know, this is a game that I would say is definitely a guilty pleasure if it wasn't so short. There is at least one other thing to do. The survival mode, which is literally just Nazi zombies with dinosaurs. I'm serious, it has the same barricading windows mechanic, you unlock new guns between each wave, and survive as many waves as you can. To be honest, it's not that bad, and it really does add a lot more time into this game, especially since the campaign is so short. The only real problem is that this game is single player only. If this game was on PC and had co-op, I totally would not mind playing this mode with friends. Really, that's just the biggest problem with this game. There's not a lot of content for what is supposed to be here. I've played a lot of mods that are twice as long as this and have way more content. So to answer the question, how bad is Jurassic the Hunted really? Well, it's kind of really bad if you look at it for what it really is, but I don't know, for some reason I didn't mind playing it. It was fun, I guess I could say. It's kind of a guilty pleasure in a way, but it's certainly not a good game. It's odd. If I had to give this game a rating, I would give it a good 6.5 out of 10, if that makes sense. Usually when you hear 6.5, you think, oh, this is a game that's not even worth looking at. But this one is fun if dinosaurs are your thing. We don't really have dinosaur shooters anymore, they kind of all died out, and I would really like to see them come back. And when I say dinosaur shooter, I mean something like Turok, not all the dinosaur survival games we have now. Dinosaur survival games are pretty popular, but that's something totally different from a first-person shooter. I just want a good, straightforward, first-person shooter with dinosaurs. I'm still annoyed we ended up getting Far Cry Primal instead of Far Cry with dinosaurs. That's just free money. Why would you not do that? But for now, that's all I really have to say. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to this channel and be sure to click that bell notification. On average, I had around 30 to 45 people watching me on Twitch while streaming this game, which blew my mind. That's more than what I usually get. So if you really want to see more of this and hang out with me on Twitch, then check out my Twitch, twitch.tv/Jarek4GamingDragon. If you want to support me further, you can subscribe on Twitch or help me out over on my Patreon, patreon.com/Jarek4. Thank all of you for watching. Consider checking out these other videos somewhere around here on the screen, and I will see you next time.